Hello YouTube and welcome back into another Dare to Game video. Today we are going to be discussing Hogwarts Legacy and an important feature that will not be included at launch. The feature in question, as should be obvious given the title and thumbnail, is Quidditch, the magical sport played on broomsticks in the wizarding world of Harry Potter. I know this will likely disappoint a lot of people, but there is potential good news on this topic that I will get to in due time. But first, just in case you aren't a Harry Potter fan and therefore don't know why this missing feature upsets so many people, let me quickly explain Quidditch. Quidditch is a sport similar to soccer in many ways, except it is specifically designed for magic users. It is played on broomsticks and uses 4 balls. The first ball is called a quaffle. It's about the size of a soccer ball and is thrown through rings at the end of the field, or pitch, to score points. Each goal is worth 10 points. The next 2 balls are called bludgers. These are magical flying balls that fly around the field trying to knock people off their brooms. The last ball is the golden snitch. This golf ball-sized golden ball flies around the field and is very fast, maneuverable, and hard to see given its speed and size. Once the snitch is caught, the game ends, and the team who caught it receives 150 points. Typically, the team that catches the snitch wins the game, given this huge scoring advantage. However, this is not always the case. A Quidditch team is made up of 7 people. 3 chasers. These are the people who try to get a hold of the quaffle and score it by throwing the quaffle through the rings at the end of the pitch. Then there are 2 beaters. These players are the ones that ride around with a bat in their hand, and they try to protect the players on their team from the bludgers and use the bat to knock the bludgers towards the players on the opposite team. In addition to these players, there is also a keeper, who is basically just the goalie, and he defends the rings, trying to block enemy goals. And then finally a seeker, a player whose sole job it is to find and catch the golden snitch. In the Harry Potter franchise, this is the position that Harry Potter plays on the Gryffindor house team. Quidditch as a sport is very engaging and is the favorite part of the entire world for many fans of the Harry Potter franchise. There has yet to be a video game that includes Quidditch and made it as fun as many fans believe is possible. Some games have attempted this to varying levels of success. 4 titles that did so include Harry Potter Quidditch World Cup, Harry Potter Hogwarts Mystery, Lego Harry Potter Years 1 through 4, and Broomstick League, an unrelated game that basically just ripped it off. These games have their fans, but many consider them to be imperfect adaptations of a sport that should play as an engaging and high-octane event with many moving parts and a lot of player freedom. Recently, the announcement came out that the upcoming open-world Wizarding World game, Hogwarts Legacy, will not include Quidditch as a playable sport. This came as a shock to many, seeing as the world does include broomsticks that you can use for world traversal, and it even has classes to teach you how to ride them, and it places you as a 5th-year student at Hogwarts. One would think that Quidditch as a side activity is an obvious choice, but the developers have confirmed that it will not be available at launch. They did confirm that Broomflight would still be included for exploration and transportation purposes, and that there would even be broomstick races, but no Quidditch. So why is this? Well, there are a number of schools of thought behind the decision not to include Quidditch in Hogwarts Legacy. The first, and in my opinion the least likely, is the suggestion that it was kept out due to the J.K. Rowling controversy. This theory suggests that the developers wanted to avoid making a statement that could be taken as political by including Quidditch, due to the naming convention they would have to choose. See, there is a group of people in real life who run around with sticks between their legs playing a real-life approximation of Quidditch. Up until recently, this was known as the Quidditch League. However, after the recent J.K. Rowling controversy, they renamed themselves to the Quadball League to distance themselves from J.K. Rowling and her works. The suggestion is that the developers would have to decide what they were going to call the sport in the game, sticking with the traditional name in lore, Quidditch, or going with the rebrand Quadball. Either decision would be seen as tacit political endorsement for J.K. Rowling or against her, and risk alienating fans on one side or the other. And so the theory is that they decided against including it, or even removed it to avoid the controversy. I wholly disagree with this theory. I do not think the developers care very much about the J.K. Rowling controversy, and they understand that total separation from her is just not possible, as she created everything about the world, and is inseparable from it. I also think that given the fact that the game became the #1 and #5 best-selling game almost immediately when it became available for pre-order, and this is months in advance of its release date, so that number's only going to go up, this all in spite of the controversy and attempts to boycott it. So if I were a betting man, I would say that the developers are likely not too worried about the controversy surrounding J.K. Rowling, and are planning to just focus on making the game as good as possible. The next theory, which I think is most likely, is just that the game is so large and includes so many different features that the devs realized they didn't have the ability to include Quidditch, at least not in a satisfactory manner. So even if they planned on including it initially, they decided against it as the release date grew nearer, as they wanted to make sure the game was as polished as possible before release. This theory makes sense to me for a number of reasons. For one thing, the game does appear to be quite large, and include a ton of different systems and activities, so it makes sense that some, especially large and likely extraneous ones, like Quidditch, would be left on the cutting room floor, despite the fact that many Harry Potter fans love the idea of being able to play Quidditch for their house and win the house cup. It is likely not the main selling point for the game for the vast majority of fans. So removing it from the game does make sense for a lot of reasons. The final theory, which I find slightly less likely than the second but still fairly compelling, is that it may have been temporarily removed, or there are plans to implement it after launch as post-launch DLC. I think this theory makes a lot of sense, because as a fully single-player game, Hogwarts Legacy risks experiencing the normal single-player popularity bubble, where it is huge for a few weeks, maybe even a couple months, depending on how huge it is and how replayable it proves to be, and then fading into relative obscurity. Most single-player games, even hugely popular and successful ones like Elden Ring, suffer this fate. Sure, there are still people playing it months or even years later, but instead of millions, you are talking hundreds, maybe thousands. If a single-player game is going to have legs, it usually needs substantial post-launch DLC, and the best results come from developers that release this DLC within the first 6 months of launch, while the game is still somewhat relevant. I think this would make sense for Quidditch. For one thing, as a sport, it is likely to be a highly replayable game feature, and if added several months after launch, it would likely drive repeat playthroughs, so the player can participate in the struggle for the House Cup by leading their team to victory. And if multiple positions are playable, it would be even more replayable and lead to more playthroughs, because maybe you want to be a keeper one year and a beater the next. I think most hardcore fans would likely want to try out each position, and this could keep the game alive and relevant for a pretty long time. So despite the fact that I am upset that this much desired feature will not be in the game at launch, I have faith that there is really a good chance that it will be in the game eventually. And if that is the case, hopefully before too long, we will all be zooming around the Quidditch pitch, playing our favorite position, and helping our team win before very long at all. But that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it informative, or at the very least entertaining. Thank you for watching and have a nice day, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching another Dare to Game video. If you like this video, please leave a like and a comment. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like my content and would like to support this channel, consider becoming a member today for as little as $1.99 a month. It makes a huge difference. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day. I'll see you next time.